The Editor-in-Chief is live in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Okay, welcome to the program, November the 28th, and you are with the Editor-in-Chief, and we are live.
Duncan, Garner,
with some
live.
new music as well. Get involved, send us a message tonight, getting into your best position to get the best job in 2025, everything that you need to know with Tom O'Neill shortly. And he did more than 10 years inside and came out a better man and an educated man. Now he speaks to the corporates, the young people, the leaders about going to the next level and how to get there. Dr. Paul Wood, he's a legend. He will join us very, very shortly. But let's go.
Duncan, Garner, live.
Okay, 2025, new job, new you. Before then, though, you must get match fit for this new job market. How do you tackle 2025 and getting a new job? How do you prepare for a tricky question? I'll put Tom O'Neill through some tests right now, see if he passes. Tommy, g'day, mate. Nice to see you.
G'day, mate. Great to be back. Thanks so much.
What's the trickiest question you'll get asked at a job interview?
I think the worst one is tell me about yourself. You know, it's one of those terrible questions that it's like, what do I say? What do I say? You know, what are they after? What's their motivation?
Well, I suppose, I'm sporty and I like to, I mean, you almost make a cock of yourself, couldn't you? You'll be very careful.
Yeah,
we're quite humble New Zealanders. We don't like to talk ourselves up either.
Well, that's the thing. There's really a good way to answer that one. You sort of start like what I say is past, present, future, personal. Past, what you've been doing in the past, you know, up to this point. Present, what you're doing at present. Future, what your future goals are and dreams, and that sort of stuff. You want to tie that ideally to the role you're being interviewed for. And then finally, personal. If you want to just pop in a few personal things, but then just to kind of round it off. When you've got a sort of approach like that, it really helps you sort of get something to practice really beforehand. But it's one of those basic questions that is asked at the start of an interview. If you get it wrong, it can really throw you off your entire game.
Tom, why don't you tell us a bit about your weaknesses?
How long we got, mate? Yeah. Ideally, in that situation, you want to talk about something you're really genuinely weak at, but at the same time, sort of turn it round into something that you talk about, the weakness, but you also talk about the end of that, what you're trying to do to overcome it. Again, doing that shows you sort of, someone with a, decent emotional intelligence and someone who, sort of looking at themselves and being can self-evaluate.
I love the sort of, idea that 2025 comes around and it's a new, you're a new you, you're a new person. It's not really, it's another dawn. You just wake up the next day and it's still just another day. And we sort of hype ourselves up about this. So with 2025 looming, how do people get into their best shape for the best job if they're unemployed at the moment or looking for a job? Because it doesn't just happen. Things only happen with hard work, right?
Look, absolutely, mate. And people need to understand that you can be the greatest X in the world, plumber, electrician, communicator, whatever it is. But it's about selling that message, And so there's only one time in our society we're allowed to talk about how good we are at something. That is the job hunt. And that is where we're expected to think about what are our achievements, what have we done well, particularly in the last 12, 18 months, 2 years. What are some cool things we've been involved in? Have we met, exceeded KPIs? We've been involved in some cool projects, whatever it is. And not being afraid to, A, know that stuff, because most people don't, but then B, communicate that through the CV, through LinkedIn, through the interview.
It's way more competitive now, isn't it? I mean, you look back 2 years ago when unemployment was around 4% and it's now heading towards 5 and going over 5. It's tougher. Yeah. You got to think that you're in a room with, say, 10 other guys, 10 other people, and so you got to stand out. 2 years ago, there may be 2 or 3 of you in the room. There's now 10. Yeah. So how are you going to do it?
Yeah, and this is exactly it. Again, it's about having really good personal branding material, your CV, your LinkedIn, because that is what gets you the interview. From there, it's about thinking about the interview and thinking, okay, so often the employer will say, what do you know about our business? And, the person has no real idea. Yeah. What do you want to work here? Oh, I'm not sure. You got money. So it's about prepping beforehand, like any other thing that you would do in your life. I mean, I'm a boatie. Before I go to sea, I check the weather, I do this, I do that. And so it's the same sort of thing as a person going for an interview. You want to really prep, know your achievements, practice your interview skills, practice your interview questions with family members, the friend, the dog, the mirror, and go in with a strategy to actually promote yourself, not just sit there passively.
Final question. A lot of people don't. A lot of people are complacent. Tell people why they shouldn't be complacent, because they're going to go in there and cock it up, right?
Yeah. Well, this is the thing. People let themselves down. And this is the heartbreak. 30 years of recruiting, interviewing, all that sort of stuff. But I'll know someone, work alongside them or something, and then they'll be in a position where I'm interviewing them for an internal position. And they just massively undersell themselves. It's heartbreaking. And so we really need to take accountability and say to ourselves, it's my job to let the employer know my value, not the employer's job to sort of pull it out of me. So, yeah.
And look sharp as well, because half of it's in the cell, isn't it? Don't turn up shabby and looking poor like you had a big night out.
Yes, you want to be professional no matter what you're going, no matter what sort of job you're going for, mate.
Yeah. Tom, always appreciate it, mate. Tom O'Neill, cv.co.nz. Always appreciate your time.
Always a pleasure, mate.
Good on you, boss. Cheers.
Duncan Garner, live.
Okay, now Dr. Paul Wood is one of the country's best motivational speakers. You may recall I've spoken to him a number of times before, not only here but also AM show as well. He's the guy who, in his youth, had issues with his drug dealer and took him out. He was struggling with the impending loss of his mum, so he went to jail for 10 years. He flipped out. Life doesn't always go to plan, does it? But boy, has this guy bounced back. It was the best thing for him. That's what he says. He got seriously educated. He saw where he was going and he sorted himself out. Now he helps others. What has he seen with our young people? How has the new online courses gone down that he does? And where does he think our young people are at with their addiction to social media? Is it changing lives as we know it forever? And what are the consequences of that? Always enjoy our chat. Paul, g'day, mate. Nice to see you.
Yeah, fantastic to be here.
Yeah, thank you for coming in and for, I think you're going to go back on the plane later on, so you're the man. Thank you for that.
Yeah,
hey, how you been?
Yeah, excellent. But for me, the secret to being excellent is to embrace the suffering too.
Yeah.
And to realise there's value in it. If you embrace the suck, if you rejoice in the suffering, if you realise that there's value in it, then, hey, you're living the dream.
Is that what you did when you went to jail? Did you just suck it up?
And not at all at first. I mean, one of the main reasons I ended up in prison is because I didn't have realistic ideas around my own emotions. I certainly didn't have the tools to be able to make space for the distress and do stuff that mattered. So I resorted to drug use. I avoided it. And that's what people do with alcohol and drugs. They're self-medicating so much of the time. But when I was in prison, that's when I started to get the insights and the information that I now share with other people that help them have a more realistic understanding of their emotions.
I mean, what I love about you is it not only changed your life at this particular time, you've turned it into a career. In many ways, what your learnings, your experience, you've turned it into a business. It's quite remarkable, really. I mean, not many people do that.
No. And look, I'm incredibly fortunate to be in a country where you genuinely can get second chances.
Yep.
And where what's become my calling is being able to help people on their journey in terms of having that capacity and that insight to pursue the best life for them. But the business component then enables me to do the pro bono stuff with prisoners, with youth offenders.
You still do all that?
Yeah, and look, it's much harder to get in the prisons these days just because there's not the capacity in most of them to manage visitors.
Yeah, no, that's true, isn't
they
it?
just don't have the staff.
Well, there's a lot of guys that have got hold of me that haven't had visitors in years.
Yeah, absolutely. Some prisons, in fact, it's all just
actually quite poor, isn't it?
virtual visiting. Yeah, it's horrendous because social connection is such a crucial ingredient in terms of effective rehabilitation and reintegration.
Yeah, I mean, I've had prisoners call me on air, and I've had their wives or partners in here so they can talk to them.
Yeah,
and they've jammed the phones. I don't have to do that, but they jam the phones and they get hold of them. It is heartbreaking to hear it. These are human beings.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I know that COVID report came out today, and it said that we did things for too long, and there was suffering, and those guys suffer too.
Oh, absolutely. Look, I think the most marginalised people in society were certainly the ones who, got the roughest deal out of it. And, look, in general, no one cares.
Yeah.
And that's fair
the
enough.
Truth.
It's fair enough,
That's
though.
the truth.
Like, for example, look, when I was in prison, and the crimes I've committed in that got me there, that earned me my place there, it's fair enough if people are like, oh, well, bad luck, you've made your bed. But here's the problem. Is that if we don't enable social support and connection for people, if we don't give them hope to be accepted back into society, then, what's the motivation to change?
Well, that's what you said to me last time. You said the one thing that they hang on to is hope. And so if there's no hope, then there's nothing.
Yeah, look, absolutely. I mean, again, hope is just that things can get better, but also a crucial component there is actually I'm empowered in this, I can start making choices now that enable me to create the future I want, or a better one than this, rather than just some victim mentality where you're going, it's up to everyone else to change. Once people start treating me better, then I'll be better. No. Look, the only thing admirable about having been a victim is overcoming that. Now, don't get me wrong, that's not being dismissive of the legitimate victimisation that happens.
So many people just blame government.
Of course, well, it's easier.
Or colonisation, or whatever it might be.
If you blame others, you don't have to take responsibility for taking the steps that improve your life, right? If you blame others, then you don't have to do the hard work.
Yes.
And again, that's not being dismissive of the fact that it's not fair. People get a rough deal. But at the end of the day, you can only control the controllables if you want to have the best life possible, and that's about going,
But you've been really disciplined, though. I want to talk about your views on other things shortly, but you've been disciplined as well, just to remind people, who you are, what you've done. But you've been disciplined. You came out of there and, you got married, you have a good wife, you have kids, you created a sort of a framework around you, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's crucial to understand, as we often have this idea, you just pull yourself up by your own bootstraps. It's about context, Dunk. Like my wife is an elite athlete. She's straight-edged. She is no nonsense.
Yeah.
And that doesn't give me the opportunity to stray.
Yes.
That is the woman I need to be with, the one who helps inspire me to be better.
Yeah.
And I have great friends who also would hold me accountable.
Yes.
If they started seeing stuff slip. I think this is one of the problems, particularly when you've had people who have engaged in behaviour that they do feel ashamed of and that they do feel worried about people judging them, is unfortunately, unless we can demonstrate compassion and acceptance towards them, then what they do is just gravitate towards other people who have behaved badly because they feel accepted.
And so you've seen that with the 501s, they come over here and they hang out with each other because that's their only ring of acceptance. I feel quite bad for those guys.
Yeah, look, absolutely. And I mean, look, the gangs, that's a classic topic right now. Why do you think people join gangs? Because they're looking for connection and acceptance and social support. We're members of a social species. They're seeking that. And then what we do now is we go, well, let's just get really harsh on the symptoms.
Yeah.
We need to be doing early intervention.
And crime's not going to drop because you take a patch off them.
No, we need to be doing early intervention with at-risk kids so they don't need to go to the gangs for this.
What do you think of the patch ban? I mean, it's been policed pretty heavily in the city, I notice. I'm not sure about it in the sticks because one cop, 10 gangsters, what are you going to do? But do you think it's going to do anything?
I think it'll make a superficial difference, right?
Yeah.
I think, so that there'll be less visual indicators for people to feel intimidated by, but does that address the underlying issues? And in fact, I'll tell you this right now, if I was the government, I'd be going, we're going to make you wear your patch so it's easy for the cops to see who we need to worry about. The last thing we want to do is put gang members more organised and underground, so they're harder to catch.
Well, this does make them underground, because I've noticed in the last few days, guys on their bikes, I live out west, so I see a lot of it. Now, I don't know who they belong to.
Right.
You see, so you've actually made it, I don't know, I wonder if it's going to be tougher.
Yeah.
Who's who, Yeah.
And
that's why the cops went out there and filmed all the time at funerals and tangi, so they could identify, right?
Yeah. I mean, obviously, facial tattoos, help the police, but the patches, that was the clear indicator that, this is a person you might want to watch out for.
Correct.
Steer clear of. If you're the police, there's a person you want to keep an eye on. Again, it's addressing symptoms, not underlying causes.
Have you found it hard in your life, if you've come across guys you were in prison with, or you've come across guys that, you did bad shit with, have you found it hard to distance yourself from them out here?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
because mates are mates right inside.
100%. And when I came out of prison, my whole life to that point had been friends with people who I engaged in criminal activity with or who I was in prison with. And a clear decision I made for myself when I got out was I can't be around anyone who gives me opportunity to relapse into drug use. I can't be around people who could contaminate me with their actions.
Yes.
And so I would, not infrequently come across people, and I'd always be friendly, and people would say, I'll grab your phone number off you. And I would always just say, hey, I really appreciate it. It's great catching up with you. But I just have a rule where I just don't give my number out to anyone I was inside with, just for my own sake. It's nothing to do with you. But I'll tell you what.
I know what you mean, because I've done a lot of stories on different guys, and I have given my number out.
Yeah.
Because I'm a journalist.
Yeah, but you're not a convicted murderer.
No, I know.
Right? You don't have the same sword of Damocles hanging over you, and you don't have the same need to make sure that you are just not
clean as a
open
whistle
for any criticism whatsoever.
Yeah, no, I get that. But I have had a poke into some of their lives, and it's like, shit, If you're in a weak moment, and I'm a bloke in a weak moment, with the loss of everything, I can see how men go that way.
Of course. Of course, but that's why the context you put yourself in is so important. Like, I don't go to rough bars and hang out and drink, because at the end of the day, I have a history of violence.
Yeah.
My adolescence was about being seen and valued through being tough, all of these things that are just not relevant to me now, but I still don't think that I'm not at risk of that stuff.
Of course. Someone might try it on.
I don't put myself in those situations.
No. The way you've owned it, and the way you talk about it, it's just, I got so much respect for it, mate.
Oh, I appreciate
the way
that.
you talk about it, and own it. It's the opposite of most other guys.
Yeah, but look, it's the only way forward in terms of being truly empowered in your life is to be able to own that. But also as well, I think one of the things that we all need to do is have a bit of grace in terms of our own weaknesses and fallibilities, and instead of trying to hide them as much or feel shame about them, to just go, hey, look, this is something I'm going to make an active effort to own and manage, so it's not a problem for me.
Yeah, because not everyone's always honest, you see, but we've also become very tribal in this country too, around opinions.
Yeah.
What have you got that opinion for? Well, it's because it's my opinion. So we've got a bit tribal. In society, I don't think we've recovered that well out of the back of COVID, to be honest. What do you think?
No, look, I agree. And I mean, talking about online stuff and the problems with kids, really since COVID, we've experienced internationally such an increase in rates of anxiety and depression related issues and other things. So it's a bit. I feel a tension when I think about like the program I'm delivering and launching online, which is about helping people manage their emotions, have more realistic understanding, find that path forward.
Why are you doing it online? Is that the best way to approach them? Or?
Yeah, like a lot of people don't read books, particularly young people. So it's a whole lot of like 2 to 6 minute clips with key messages.
A whole generation don't read books now.
Yeah, do you
it's
know
over.
what?
It's over, Paul.
I know. You know who does read books, Sal? And that's prisoners who have the literacy levels to do so. And I know so because my first book is the most popular book in prison still.
Yeah.
But there you've got confinement, right? You've got
you've got a few options, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. But then I'm using it as a positive vehicle, and I think there are so many positive things about the online option. But then we've got all the social media stuff. We've got the social comparison stuff. We've got the bullying that goes on, particularly with young females online via social media. We've got the porn plague in terms of young males. We've just,
It's also young people taking shots of their private parts and putting it, thinking no, it's only going to go to one person. It never goes to one person. It stays online forever.
Yeah, well, this is the problem as well, is that what we've done, and this is what the research clearly shows, is we've provided way too much unsupervised access to the online environment for young people, and instead we've restricted their real life unsupervised activities, whereas that's the stuff that builds resilience and independence.
Yes.
That's the stuff that builds a healthy life. I want you to think about this. When I was a kid, you knew who the local pedophiles were, and you actually learned how to navigate that stuff.
Well, because you sneak it and went the other way.
Right, whereas where they all are now? They're online targeting your kids.
You don't see them.
No,
and I've got 4 kids, and my youngest is 14, and I've seen some of the stuff that comes across. I did a whole show on pornography, right?
Yeah.
About a couple of years ago, and I was just inundated with men calling me, saying they're admitting their problem. They're actually really honest. It was good. And one of them said to me, "You've got a 12-year-old boy, right?" I said, "Yeah, I have." He said, "Go home and say the word Pornhub to him." And I said, "Oh, he won't know what it is." Well, I got home. There were six of his mates at home. They're playing basketball. And I hopped out of the car and I walked past him. I went, "Pornhub." You could have cut the ear, mate. They all went, "Well, what do you know about it?" They all knew it.
It's such a problem.
They all knew it, Paul.
One of the things that we've done, because you can't control all access, we try to as much as we can, but due to my wife's great wisdom and leading the way here, we've had age-appropriate conversations with our kids around sex. Our eldest one has been spoken to, our 10-year-old, about what porn is, pornography, but using proper language like that, so that when he comes across it, here's a frame of reference, and that's important. Then he already knows that, this is something where I need to let mum and dad know that I've been shown this, and this is not real. Whereas if you're exposed to it and you have no frame of reference for it, that's what you're at greatest risk of going, this is how it works.
Well, this rape scene is how you have sex. It's not. But this is what. I've done the same thing with my boy.
Yeah.
I've said this is all fake. This is all not right. This is not how it works. This is not a normal relationship.
Yeah.
And I don't want you for a moment to think it is.
Yeah.
So I've had to reference that too.
And just talking about that as well, by the way, it was Joe from Tricky Chats Parenting, where my wife and I did that course. So again, we're benefiting from online in terms of the brilliant knowledge and information she provides. Yeah. But then you've got this dark side of that online environment, which is so damaging.
And then the government goes and gets rid of 2 or 3 of the staff at Internal Affairs who are in charge of blocking this stuff. Like, it's really simple to block this stuff. England's doing it now. Other countries are doing it. Joe and Co have had to drag the government kicking and screaming, and they're still not there, Paul.
Yeah, it's nuts. It's absolutely nuts.
And so our kids aren't outside as much. Before I came here, I was just down at the park with my son and 3 of his mates. We were just doing some rugby drills, and that was their idea.
Yeah, awesome.
And it is, but they still play on the computer too much. But it was their idea, so I went down there, bought some water and some drinks, and he can hydrate them. But I was so pleased, and I left there to come here, and they were doing another hour, so there's 2 hours in the park. Awesome. I love that. It's old-fashioned, I know, but there's a lot to be said for that. Yeah,
absolutely, and I think particularly with sports for young people, because it teaches you so many valuable life lessons.
Graham Lowe says this too.
You get out what you put in, but also a little bit of misery and suffering, a little bit of discomfort is not a threat to be avoided. It's a challenge to be embraced. It shows you're working, you're doing stuff.
I think we overparent.
Oh, 100%.
Now, I'm not going to say it's women because it's men as well. I see this all the time on sidelines, and I want to pull my own hair out and theirs because no, you're going to get wet. You're going to get wet. Don't put the jacket on. You're going to get wet. Let them get muddy and wet.
Yeah,
it's okay.
Yeah. And look, I mean, I can be prone to this myself. My wife has me on about asking the kids, now, do you want me to get you some apples now? Do you want chilled ones out of the fridge? And then I cut them the size. So, mate, I'm a hypocrite here.
Give us your man card, mate.
But I'm conscious of it, eh? And we do make an active effort to try and actually, make them prepared for the road. I love that quote, which is, don't prepare the road for your child, prepare your child for the road.
Well, she's tough out there. You know this better than anyone. But I mean, I've had some ups and downs in recent years, and I always learn from my losses, my failures.
Yeah, absolutely.
I get complacent about the victories.
Yeah,
it teaches you nothing. And my son's seen this in the last few years as well, so he knows that the world is not actually a perfect place. And I tried to tell him, hey, mate, sometimes you're going to lose a job.
Yeah.
And you've got to get back up again the next day and go and work it out.
Yeah, look, hey, I mean, one of the things I love, though, Dunk, is this, so much of my work is framed by evolution and what was useful for our ancestors.
Yes.
In evolutionary psychology, we say you have a Stone Age brain in a modern world. It hasn't caught up.
Yeah.
And in terms of that, it's really useful to know that, things like stress that you experience, those are the result of millions of years of evolution, because stress means it's go time.
Yes.
That's what we've evolved to take on challenges, to overcome obstacles. Whereas if you're taught now that, no, you should never feel stress in that, then you're more likely to have negative health outcomes when you have it.
No, but there's a difference between stress and anxiety, isn't there? Because anxiety that hangs around can be toxic.
Well, check it out, though. Check it out. Let's use the evolutionary lens. Why did we evolve to have anxiety? To mitigate future potential risks. Food supplies dwindling, anxious, source food.
Yeah, bang.
Now, this is the thing. The antidote to anxiety is always action.
Yes.
The worst thing to do is to go, I feel anxious. I'm just going to sit here and angst about my anxiety.
Yeah, and you
take
more
action.
And more. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I'll tell you something, because we have that Stone Age brain, Dunk, you don't even have to take an action which directly relates to what you're worried about. Any action will help dial down the distress.
I went on Celebrity Treasure Island this year, and I did. I got right to the top six, and so I did pretty much the full time there, apart from one day, and lots of people were anxious going into there because everyone knows sort of each other but don't know each other, and it's a cabin with no windows and it's cold, and I walked towards that and I loved it. Because I've always been an outdoors guy, and so I backed my skills. I backed my ability to be on my own. I've been in war zones. I backed my ability to be lonely. I've done some hard yards with a divorce and everything. I was match fit, mate.
Yeah. But this is
I was good for it. I could lie in a sack and have a sore back all day. It's all right, mate. Is this going to end at some stage?
Yeah. And that's the thing, though, right?
I could have done it 20 years ago.
Yeah, but you're road tested, mate. You've got that confidence. And by the way, that's the confidence you want, which is to go, I've done hard stuff in the past and been okay.
Yeah.
I'll figure out the way forward in this one too.
Yeah. Experience matters. I enjoy speaking to people with experience because experience matters. There's people. I'm not saying young people don't have a story.
Yeah.
But there's something about road testing, eh?
Yeah, absolutely. And I just want to close the loop as well on what originally got me going on that stress can be good, Rand.
It's good.
And that's this idea that the things that cause us distress today, like, risk of redundancy, losing a job, whatever it is, I'll tell you this right now, all of us come from lineages of bloody survivors on both sides, maternal and paternal. We have no idea the hardship our ancestors survived for us to be here today. We're capable of so much more than we know.
I regard that as the best thing you've said, because I went and looked at my ancestors the other day. I don't know why I did, but Mum showed me a pub that they were German. They came out in 1850. and they built a mud pub. It's still there
Can you
today.
imagine? Just the trip here.
Upper Mortity. They got Upper Mortity from Germany. They had 2 fingers. They were sawmillers and they were brewers. There were no cars. There were very few horses. And I heard they were big, tough bastards. And, we're hearing these stories. I love that stuff.
Yeah.
Because our ancestors were survivors. And the thing about evolution? We've always survived.
Yeah.
There's no generation that's collapsed.
No.
Like, they've got through it.
And that's good to know, right? Because even though it feels so big, even though it feels so hard, you have no idea how much you can survive. People regularly go to me, I wouldn't survive prison, if they've read my book and that. And I'm like, you have no idea what you'd survive.
Yeah.
Honestly, you come from a lineage of bloody survivors.
Yeah, and, until your heart stops ticking. My mate had a heart attack the other day, 52, and he's still alive because he wanted to survive. It was pretty freaky.
Yeah.
But, we are the top of the food chain. Like, even the dumb ones are top of the food chain. But it's true, though, because we think. The animals are down there. We eat them.
Yeah.
They don't eat us yet.
But there's costs that come with that as well, right? As we spend so much time in our minds creating unnecessary misery and suffering for ourselves.
Or we structure our lives like that, yeah. Well, governments and... I thought the system was broken this year with interest rates going so high. Well, when I say so high, our ancestors would say, we had 20% interest rates.
Yeah.
But did you have houses 10 times as much as salary? So there's all, we always have this imbalance. I want to just touch on anxiety before we do close that loop.
Sure.
It's with anxiety, and I've had this with one of my kids. It's really hard to navigate them through it because there's not much help out there.
Yeah, I'm going to give you a real pro tip right now that you can
it.
do one thing. It's so hard to get resources. That's why massive
really
shout out to bloody Mike King.
Yeah.
People who bag him, what are you doing? What are you doing for the young people? Anyway,
I can't.
subject.
Mike's a good mate of mine.
Yeah.
I think he's a wonderful man. The people that bag him.
Yeah, what are you doing?
He's in the arena, mate.
Yeah, 100% he's in the arena. Anyway, here's the pro tip. What we know from the research is just the forward act of motion through walking actually suppresses activity in the amygdala, which is associated with anxiety. The next time you're sitting there with someone you care about and you're going, geez, I'm a bit worried about them, they're a bit anxious, you go, let's go for a walk. The simple act of walking dials down, suppresses activity in the amygdala, and it will help them feel less distress and re-engage the thinking brain.
So I've heard you say this before, and I took it on board when I was in a relationship difficulty and we were breaking up, and rather than hit the wall, I beat the pavements and I walked up and down the street. It worked wonders.
Yeah, awesome.
Something about even cracking a little sweat, walking is crucial.
Yeah, absolutely.
Jogging, walking, gym. I joined the gym after Sleepy Treasure Island because I wanted to pump some tin,
Yeah.
We're animals and we need to move. Don't rot and stay
100%.
still,
Yeah, 100%.
Mental health can be fixed, I reckon, or it can be partially resolved by moving.
Yeah, look, absolutely. And I'll tell you this right now, there's heaps of research around our levels of happiness. And in some respects, the level of happiness you have as an adult doesn't shift and change a great deal unless you're very deliberate about it. But that's good to know because it means that you're not actually going to get a whole lot happier from getting a whole lot more money or a whole lot bigger a house. That's not going to fix
Probably
it.
causes you trouble, actually.
Do you know what the single most useful thing you can do if you actually want to boost, your happiness, your well-being longer term, and that is acts of service for others. Do things for other people who warrant it and deserve it. It's a longer lasting positive benefit than doing things for yourself.
I try and be as empathetic as I can, and when I find individuals, even friends of mine who have lost their empathy or don't have it, I question my friendship with them.
Yeah.
Like, I've got one really good mate. I love this guy, but he's lacking empathy at the moment because he's made a lot of money, and he's now a little bit dismissive of people, and I don't like it.
Yeah.
And I've had a couple of words with him, and I don't know how to bring it back into the middle. But you're right about doing things to people.
Yeah. Hey, can I just
little things?
Yeah, and can I just give you a useful frame around the empathy piece too? Because a lot of people who are empathetic, they suffer empathy fatigue from taking the emotional burden of others. But in psychology, we talk about the value of compassion over empathy. Because check this out. Sympathy is, I understand intellectually why you're suffering, but I'm not feeling it. Empathy is, I can put myself in your shoes and feel for you.
Yes.
Compassion, on the other hand, is I can understand and feel for you, but I want to help you move through it. So it's action-oriented.
So compassion is an action.
Yes, it's about helping someone move through the suffering, and that's really powerful, particularly for the empaths listening who just, are used to just being drained by it.
Yeah.
If you shift that
It is
compassion,
draining.
then it becomes to, okay, well, what can you do? And it becomes action-oriented, and it's helpful.
Dave Latelli, he's a mate of mine. I'm
legend.
I'm a trustee on his
Legend.
his charity, and he says, and his motto is, and we talk about this all the time: if you can, you should.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. If you can, you should, and so he does. But boy, he's dealing with some whiteboards and some clipboards and some public servants who haven't got the flexibility to move. The same with Mike King, you see.
Yeah.
And what they're dealing with out in society is not easy.
Yeah.
But the public service and the government want it to be ring-fenced in some little sort of square box or something. It doesn't work like that.
Yeah, and I think one of the things...
We need flexibility. Paul.
Yeah, and look, I don't know Dave as well as I know Mike, but I do know both of them enough to know this. They take on a huge personal cost from what they do for other people. And, for the people who hate on them out there, who see them as whatever they see them as, those two guys are sacrificing so much of themselves to try and do good for others.
I first came across Dave with the Butterbean movement. We were doing some exercise, and I first met him when his sister needed some help because she was in jail.
Yeah, well, that's how I first became aware of him, because I was interviewed about his sister's situation.
Well, I was asked to go to John Key and Judith Collins, and I said I can, and they've come back. They came back to me and said they can do it by Friday. It won't be immediate. She was out by Friday, and I became mates with him then. And he was doing all this stuff for people. He had 300 people turn up to his boot camps every night. And he was giving them all sorts of things and help and everything. He was living in a lean-to in Manurewa, like a caravan. And so we got together and said, this has got to change. You've got to monetize it, because he's got a great story. So he doesn't take any money. He just goes and does speeches in his spare time. He doesn't have spare time, Paul. He runs the social media stuff just kills him.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's got 16 staff. He needs another 20.
Yeah. It's crazy.
But a legend guy.
Absolutely.
You guys all are. Mike King, you guys all do great work. What's happening at Christmas? What are you going to do? You have a break?
Well, we're going to be taking the kids in the bush as much as possible.
It's so crucial.
Because, again, it's all about this outdoor life experiences where you go, oh, this is hard. I don't want to do this. And you go, okay, that's fine. It's all right to have that, but move on. Do what you need to do.
Yeah.
And I think that's a crucial message, particularly for young people to get, and that is, you're not supposed to feel good all the time.
Yeah. There'll be disappointment.
100%. And there'll be pain.
Yeah.
There'll be disappointment, there'll be pain, and, that's what you use to build on and to move forward,
I struggled with this a bit this year, but I understand that, I understand that. And you got to use disappointment, and you got to sometimes suck it up. Then my son, he had a great couple of years in intermediate, and he got to college this year and found it tough. And he didn't like this, or didn't think they were culturally aware here or this and that. I just said, mate, you got to just suck it up. You're one of 3,500, mate. You're not the big dog. Okay? You just got to suck it. If it's hurt, it hurts.
Yeah. And again, it goes back to that, well, what are the actions I can take to create the future I want?
Yep.
But in a way that's not bloody entitled. I think that's key as well.
Yeah, so how do you do that?
Well, I mean, that's the question, right? I think what you have to do is you have to take the steps that help you create what you want, but in a way that doesn't unfairly and negatively deprive other people of their ability to make choices for themselves. And that's that entitlement piece.
No,
you have to change to suit me.
Yes, no, I understand that. I understand, and I've said to him, okay, so if you want this team to improve, you improve. You show them how it looks. You model it to them.
Yeah.
You become fitter. You become faster.
100%.
And that's on you now. You can't sit at home and not do anything and want the team to be better.
Yeah. Oh, there's this guy. He's not very well known, called Gandhi, who said, "Be the change you want to see."
Yes,
maybe more of us need to take that on
crucial.
board.
God, you studied hard. You remembered everything.
Well, I had lots of time on my hands.
Yeah, you did. I better let you go because you've got to get on a plane.
Yeah, I've got to get home to those kids and my
good to see you, man. We're live, so I'll keep going.
Yeah, always a pleasure, brother.
Yeah. Awesome, man. Thank you, Paul. And I'll see you again, eh? We'll do it again. Maybe catch up in New Year. So I could talk to you. You're the sort of guy I could talk to for hours.
Sounds good. Take me hunting, man.
Okay.
Take me hunting.
You keen?
Keen.
You'll take your 10-year-old.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
You know, on Celebrity Treasure Island, there were 18 of us. Only 3 of us could fish.
Oh, wow.
3 people knew how to fish.
Yeah.
Only I caught fish. Okay. Thanks, mate. Good to see you. Awesome. Wow. Love this guy. Lots of feedback coming. Empathy is what separates us from the demons. got this from Mike King somewhere, but for normal people, porn is a problem. For people who are lonely, for people with health issues, porn is the solution, the way to cover up their problems, says Frosty. It doesn't help that we've become more individual. Communities have been split up and people are lonely. I agree. The individual economic unit. What? This is the thing I've been saying to my mother all the time as well. Why do we all have these separate houses, separate power bills, separate food bills, separate houses, separate rates? I mean, why don't we live more, not communes, but why don't we live more in family communities?
I mean, when you go to places overseas, especially typically Asian cultures, they'll have 3 generations in the same house.
Totally.
Grandparents live with their kids and their grandkids.
I mean, my Indian neighbours when I was in New Windsor, they had there were 3 generations in their 6-bedroom house.
Yep.
I admired them.
Yeah.
You know?
It's definitely more intertwined, and you stay connected with your family significantly better. Like I grew up with my grandparents in Nelson while I was in Christchurch, which obviously we went up to Nelson. It was beautiful. We loved to see them, but then that was 2 weeks in a term.
Yeah, you were like a visitor.
Yeah.
Like I live with my mother, right? At the moment, last 18 months I live with my mum, and some people look at me sideways and go, "What do you live with your mum for?" Do you know what? It actually feels entirely normal now.
I'd say there's more people in the world that live with their parents and their grandparents than people that don't.
Oh, well, interesting you say that.
Yep.
Like my dad died, right? Mm-hmm. And that was the love of mum's life. He's no longer there. And so I'm there now with mum.
Yeah, and it's kind of thing, especially as they get older, you lose your grandparents, and then all of a sudden they're by themselves at their house because you don't want to live with them.
Don't you dare say my mother's old. She's 77. She thinks everyone else is old. Okay?
Yeah,
she's like, I'm not. Look at these old people.
Oh, that's great.
Do we risk normalising behaviours from pornography as more of it spreads? Oh, yeah, we do. Duncan, bring back Bull Rush.
Yeah, facts.
Yeah. Wow, so much truth. What an inspiration this guy is. He really is. Is that the first time you've heard Paul?
Yes, it is. First time I met him. Great guy.
Amazing, eh?
Yeah.
Amazing. Right, Duncan, my brother, same age as Buster. Brilliant convo this evening. I could use some help with him, please. Yeah. I'll send Buster around. Right, I'm going to do Slam Dunk.
It's the Slam Dunk.
So I've got a bit of a video to play shortly, and I was just going to sort that out. But the Prime Minister, Christopher Luxon, has congratulated himself today for being sworn in as the Prime Minister exactly a year ago today. He goes through his achievements, and he's put this video up on LinkedIn. See, I'm so social media savvy now, so on LinkedIn I saw this. He goes through his achievements. Let's join him in celebrating this coalition's highs, and here he is.
A year ago today, I was sworn in as Prime Minister to rebuild the economy, to restore law and order, and to deliver better health and education. And a year on, we're making good progress. Things are still tough for a lot of families, but we are seeing positive signs in the economy. Inflation is down to 2.2%, wages are growing faster than inflation, and we have delivered hard-working Kiwis tax relief for the first time in 14 years. We're also getting crime under control so that New Zealanders feel safer in their communities. There are more police on the beat. We've banned gang patches, and ram raids are down 60%. We've invested $604 million in Pharmac to deliver up to 26 new cancer treatments and invested $16.7 billion into the healthcare system. We're also ensuring that your children are getting the best possible education by introducing an hour of reading, an hour of writing, and an hour of maths a day, and banning cell phones in our schools. There's still so much more to do, but 1 year in, National's plan to get New Zealand back on track is working.
Is it AI or is it the real deal? Anyway, okay. What nonsense. Record levels of people. Record levels of people have left New Zealand for Australia. Unemployment has risen during Luxon's time in office to now 4.8%. It is expected to go higher to 5.2%. More people are on benefits now than when he took office. Our NCEA education system is regarded as a joke and it needs replacing, and that was news out yesterday. Our health system is widely seen as broken. Dunedin needs a hospital when they're not going to build it. We have a hiring freeze on to save money, so nurses and doctors aren't being hired, and 7,000 people have lost their jobs across the public service. Our nurses, doctors and teachers all get paid double the amount of money in Australia, so why would they be here for? Dunedin Hospital has been frozen, giving locals no hope of better care. Another 1,000 jobs were reported this morning as having to go from Health New Zealand to Whatu Ora. GPs are fewer, and it's impossible to actually get in and be seen by one. They want more money and nothing's forthcoming, so there'll be fewer GPs. Schools will not all have maths teachers to start next year, so there'll be a shortage of maths teachers to start the year next year. The tax cuts have done absolutely jack shit to economic growth. In fact, it's gone backwards. And indeed, Treasury says the outlook is now worse than it was at the start of the year. Our school students continue to slip behind on all the international data, and truancy remains a major issue. Funding has been cut to a number of crucial community programs. I know many. I could go through them all right now. I haven't got time. 40,000 people marched on Parliament, claiming Luxon and his henchmen are a bunch of racist bastards wanting to change the treaty. Not that it will change, but they're having the conversation anyway. Major misjudgment. We have a new police commissioner and a new CBD hub in Auckland from next year, but fewer cops in South Auckland because they moved them to Queen Street. The old commissioner is kept on $700,000 and a job for life. And his view that we now all feel safer is total garbage. I don't. I don't feel safe at night in Auckland. The gang patch ban has not yet brought down crime, and it won't. It's a nonsense to suggest it will. It's window dressing. Interest rates are falling faster because there's no life in the economy, and it's dead. Serious criminals continue to get discounts and not sent to jail. More 501s, more gang members in New Zealand now than when he took office. And he's personally sold property and made hundreds of thousands of dollars tax-free, while cleaners go to work in South Auckland and get taxed on every dollar. And they own no houses and never will. We've had record high power prices, which have seen people lose their jobs. Mills have closed. Factories have closed. We've failed to secure a free trade deal with India, which we really need. And he kept on a minister who called a worker a loser for staying late working. And he watched as the media disintegrated and offered no solutions. His minister was so useless, he sacked her for being even more useless than he is. He paid back $13,000 of a $50,000 housing allowance he claimed for living in his own freehold apartment. Poor judgment. Caught out, so he quickly paid it back. And the new cancer drugs, thank you for that investment. Huge investment, well done. They came late and only after he forgot about them in the first budget. Without fresh job cuts, the government won't reach the surplus for a number of years, and $4 billion in job cuts seem to be coming over the next few months. There's nothing yet built under the fast-track law. Maybe some mining's coming and the oil and gas ban's been lifted. The cell phone ban is widely regarded as working. Westlake Boys High School, my school, did it 12 years ago. Australia's banning social media for under 16-year-olds. That's gutsy. We won't have the balls to do that. Congestion in Auckland is worse than ever because immigration settings allowed everybody in rather than the people we needed. And our tourism numbers have not yet returned, and we remain about 30% down on pre-COVID arrivals. And that is my slam dunk.
It's the Slam Dunk.
There we go. Did I cover everything? Isaac, do you think there?
Yeah, I think so. I can read you the top comment on not the top comment, the second comment, should I say, on Christopher Luxon's original video on LinkedIn.
Oh yes, it's funny.
I'll read it to you. It's It's very similar to what you said. It's from Colin Gale. He says, here are some more numbers from your first year as PM. Unemployment, 4.8%. 28,600 New Zealanders left for better prospects in Australia. Dunedin hospital delay costing taxpayers $110 per day. And 42,000 marched on Parliament to oppose diverse treaty principles bill.
Yeah.
Which... hard to argue with that.
Yes, and those are the things off the top of my head that I could remember, which is not a bad memory, but there's a bit there, isn't there?
Yeah.
And look at this. Lord, he's a joke. When will a politician be held accountable for their actions? Possibly ban their patch. Yeah. Well, we've got the Westminster system. That is us, folks. Thank you for joining us. This will be available as a podcast on Rover shortly, and wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you for your feedback and your support. I'm Duncan at rover.nz to my team, and there's the one man, he's the boss. Isaac, you do great work, mate. I just want to stop and say thank you very much. I really appreciate it. You're so reliable, and you're so good, and you're so smart. Remember, life is no dress rehearsal. There is no curtain raiser. This is it. We live in one of the best places on earth, so get out and enjoy it. Have a fantastic next few days, and we're back in a couple of days. Catch you then.
That was Duncan Garner, Editor-in-Chief Live. Missed something on the live stream? Text Duncan to 3598 to listen back on the podcast. Want to get in touch? Got something to say? Email Duncan at rover.nz. Call 0800 863 293.